Ibispaint, the land of brushes. Thousands and thousands of brushes, just waiting and hoping for artists to use them as they please. That was a weird way to put it, and I apologize. But there is one brush worthy of the name. The Excalibur of brushes. And that is pencil. Open parenthesis. Graphite. Close parenthesis. I don't know why I'm so dramatic. Today we're painting using this one brush, pencil graphite. It has been my favorite brush. I've been using it all the time. I don't remember how I came across this brush. Guess I was just trying out different brushes and this one just clicked. So I never look for any other brushes. I'm not saying that other brushes are not worth trying. There are a lot of great brushes in Ibispaint for you to explore, and there are custom brushes as well. But this brush just suits me the most and it's comfortable for me to use. Before sketching the character, I like to make silhouette. I find it easier to do this first rather than sketching straight on a blank canvas. This brush is perfect for making silhouette because it's not very small and not very solid in my opinion. It has softness to it when you use it. For the actual sketch, I will use smaller brush size. And I always turn off the stabilizer or set it to the lowest so I can sketch more loosely. It's still a rough sketch after all. Also, draw as less detail as possible so it won't get overwhelming during the painting. By the way, in case you're wondering, this is my pencil graphite setting. I don't remember what I did with the setting, or if I even changed anything at all. I just remember that I played around with it and then scribble, and I was like, oh yeah, this is some good shit. Because Furina's design is very detailed, I will draw cleaner sketch and turn on the stabilizer for this. Side note, this brush is not suitable for line art if you like super neat line art like I do, but it's perfect for cleaner sketch. By the way, Furina has dotted eyelashes, and one of my viewers stated that it's based on beaded lashes trend in 1920s Europe, and it looks so cool. It's so beautiful. But I will add that later because I will paint over the sketch. I lower the brush opacity to add soft shadows on the painting. Normally, I would use airbrush. I also use it along with the lasso tool for hard shadow because it's hard to make these hard edges using pencil graphite brush only. But with low opacity, you can get similar results as the airbrush. I really like this brush for rendering because the tip is faded so you can blend the colors without using smudge or blur tool. Personally, I don't like using smudge or blur because my painting will lose all the definition, so I always use low opacity brush to keep all the texture. I'm sure all of you already know that shading hair like this, one by one, is a huge sin. I'm watching you. Thanks to the faded tip, the brush looks almost fluffy and soft, so you can shade the bigger shape of the hair without the color being too solid. I feel like it's easier to get that 3D look using this brush. I explained in my rendering video that compared to cel shading, semi-realism have that shadow in between, or medium shadow as my anchovy brain likes to call it. So the object have that volume and look more 3D. And it's easier to get that look using this brush in lower opacity. When defining the facial features like nose and lips, I prefer using small size and set the opacity higher to like 80% because I want the features to be well defined. This brush is quite versatile in my opinion. I don't have any troubles shading both soft and hard shadows using it. I know I sound like a devoted sales lady for this brush, but that's because I haven't rendered any small accessories yet, and Furina got a lot of them. But that's just how Genshin characters are. Normally, I use Dip Pen Heart for rendering small accessories because the brush is smaller and sharper. It's actually my line art brush, and it's really great for drawing small details like her eyes here, which by the way have water droplets on them. How cute is that? You do need extra patience and attention when drawing these small details using pencil graphite because you need to set it to super small size to get the details right. I would not recommend doing this if something or someone is already testing your patience for the day. I will draw the rest of the face later and focus on rendering the overall painting. If I hyper-focus on rendering the face, I get tired easily and lose all the motivation to render the rest of the painting because Fong is old. Remember the medium shadow I mentioned earlier? You definitely need it when rendering the clothes so it has more volume. So what I usually do is set the brush on lower opacity and apply shadow on the base color. This will create lighter shadow in between and I will use it to give the clothes more volume. Okay, no more running away from accessories. I will draw this big water drop like jewel on different layer. Always use different layer when adding accessories. especially if they're complex and super detailed. So if you make mistakes, it won't affect the rest of your painting. I will add the blue jewel on a different layer as well. So I have a confession to make. I actually procrastinate a lot painting this piece, especially when rendering the accessories, because I was playing Genshin Impact. In my defense, they just released Fontaine region, and there's an underwater map. What was I supposed to do, not exploring it? By the way, I love Furina's dotted eyelashes. They really add uniqueness in her character design. Sometimes it's small details like this that makes the audience turn their heads and go, "Oh my god!" If you're having difficulties drawing accessories or ornaments, draw the guidelines first to get the shape and perspective right. I will apply soft shadows first, and boy do I miss my airbrush. The pencil graphite leaves some texture on the ornaments, and don't get me wrong, I love textures more than I love 10-hour sleep, but for soft shadow I still prefer using airbrush. I also miss my dip pen brush for adding details like engravings and highlights because they're so tiny. Why? But I'm already committed to this video, so I gotta see this through. Fong is not a quitter. Sometimes. This is actually my first time drawing Furina. I've only drawn her eyes before on a shorts video, but I never draw her hair, so it's a bit tricky. This is the jellyfish hairstyle, isn't it? Okay, so, not art related, but do any of you guys have this haircut? And if so, would you recommend it? I've had the same haircut for like, I don't know, 84 years, so I think it's time for something different. Okay, the painting is pretty much done, but it's still in dull colors, so I will adjust the colors with blending modes as per usual. Normally, I would use airbrush, but I will use the pencil graphite in low opacity as an alternative. Even though it's not as soft and the size cannot be as big as the airbrush, so don't take your airbrushes for granted, people. For highlight, I will use higher opacity so the painting would pop more. Drawing with only one basic brush is very much possible. You just have to play around with the size and opacity, and of course, you need patience. A little bit more extra patience, because you will need more effort to create certain texture you're going for. So maybe, before drawing, drink some calming warm tea, take a nice morning walk, breathe in some fresh air, feed your Genshin dog, and your water dog. If you have paid version of Ibispaint, try the gradient map. I always go for this red-blue gradient, set the layer to soft light, and lower the opacity. Oh, and don't forget to duplicate the layer before applying the gradient map. It gives more depth and color to your painting. At the end of my painting, I will also apply unsharp mask, so it looks sharper. So, can you draw in Ibispaint using only one brush? Yes, but it takes some time to get used to it. And of course, extra patience. Remember, tea, morning walk, dog. Also, if I still find what brush do you use questions in this video, I know you're trolling me and I hope your tea is cold.